Hi there, today I want to talk about columns in Pandas data frames. If you've been following along with my videos in my Pandas playlist, you will remember that I made an example and I said, imagine Python environment is a house. So this is your Python environment and you want to be able to do different things in this programming language. Pandas is like one part of that house. For example, the kitchen. You can do special things in a kitchen of a house, and that's the same for Pandas. Pandas is a library for very robust data wrangling in Python. So Python is your programming language, and Pandas is a library or like a kitchen in the house with heaps of tools. So if you haven't seen my videos on how to make your data frame in Python using Pandas, the link is up the top right. And if you want to follow from there and kind of really understand if somebody has given you some data, how to convert it into a data frame, and then how to really explore that data frame, how to really understand what is inside that data. Imagine your manager gives you 10 megabytes of an Excel file and tells you this is the data of all the customers in our neighborhood. And then asks you, I want to understand what is going on with this data in 15 minutes. So what are the most important things you need to do with that data? So the link is up the top right for that video. But today, I'm just going to be focusing on talking about columns in a data frame. So let's go ahead and make a new Jupyter notebook. Let's give it a proper name. I'm just going to call it handling columns in Pandas data frames. Okay. And what I'm going to do, like always, import the Pandas library as PD, because if you don't import the library, you can't use it. You are in Python environment, yes, but you need to import that set of tools to be able to use and give it the alias name of PD, because Pandas is a long name. You don't want to use Pandas, you just want to use PD to be able to use that set of tools. Before I go ahead, I just need to remind you that all the code and the data that I'm going to be showing here, the link is in the description below. So feel free to go ahead and follow along with me. If you remember from the first video that I mentioned how to make a data frame, I'm just going to quickly bring it up here. So what I will do, I've got the code on my other screen. I'm going to copy it. This is a dictionary of people's names, people's age, and their job. So I'm going to make a new video on Python dictionaries. I'm going to put the link up the top right. But for now, just accept this as a column name and the values in that column. So name, the names are Adam, Jessica, Taylor, Sam, and Josh. Their ages are 33, 45, 32, 14, and 22, and their jobs are as listed. How can I convert this to a data frame? So this time I'm going to call it my DF, short for data frame. And all I need to do is call the library pandas pd dot data frame with capital D and capital F. And I'm going to say convert this variable, which is my dict, to a data frame. Simple as that. I'm going to run that. And if you want to run your code using keyboard, just go Shift Enter. And then if I want to see what the data looks like, it looks much better now, because before it didn't look like a structured data. It did have structure, but it wasn't a structured data because it was in a dictionary. But now look, I've got a really nice column called name, another one called age, another one called jobs, and I have the data there. So this is what I showed in my previous video. Feel free to go ahead and have a play with the very, very most basics. And in the next video, I also showed how to read data from the internet. To read the data from the internet, you need to have the URL of that data. So this is where the Titanic, the very famous Titanic ship data lives in on the internet. So I'm gonna post the link here. And all I'm gonna say Titanic data equals PD. Again, I want to use pandas. And I want to say read CSV. Remember that command. It's one of the most used commands in Pandas, read underscore CSV. And I want you to read it from this URL, and that's it. So if I run that, you can see that it's loading, done. And if I look at the Titanic data, I will see the Titanic data. Well, it goes from 0 to 1,312, but it's not showing all the records, because otherwise I would have to scroll all the way God knows, to 2 kilometers down the page. So, but what I mentioned in my previous video was that you don't necessarily need to print all the data. You just need to look at the head of the data, which shows you the top 5 rows. If you want to know how can you look at 10, 2, or 20, or any random number of records in your data, see my previous video. So now I'm just going to give these sections proper names. So let's use the hashtag sign. So number 1, make your own data frame, and press M on it to make it like a text. And also 3 hashtags. Number 2, import data frames from the internet. Press ESC and then M and then Shift Enter. That will give you the text format that I showed you. Okay, so remember that today I am only focusing on how to select columns. Imagine I'm going to be working with this data. So I just made this data frame just to remind you how it works. But all the way down to the end of this tutorial, I'm going to be working with this data. So this is all the data. I'm going to look at the, I have given the name Titanic underline data. I want to see how many rows and columns are there. So there are 1,313 rows and 6 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 columns. And 1,313, which I'm only looking at the top 5 because I don't want to print everything on my screen. Imagine I was to only select the age column. I don't want to look at anything else. I'm not really interested. I just want to select the age column and potentially do some mathematical operations if you need to. Otherwise, you don't have to do it. So how can I select only age? Well, there are 2 ways to select a column. Let me just write that. So this is 2.1, selecting a column, press ESC, then letter M and Shift Enter. So approach number 1, use the name of the data frame, which is Titanic underscore data, and then use the dot notation and the name of that column. So if you are interested in the column called age, use that. And remember, Python cares about small or capital letters. So if you write age with a small a, you will not see anything. You will see an error because it says data frame object has no attribute age because it's a capital A. So if I just simply change this to capital A and run, you will see that now I'm looking at 29, 29, 2, 2, and so forth. So you might ask, can I apply the same rule of only looking at the head? Of course you can, because now what you have, if you look at the type of this data, you will see that it's a pandas series. If you haven't seen my series video, go ahead, check it out. Very important. So this is a pandas series. So let me get rid of that. It's always good practice to check the type of the data you're dealing with. And if I go ahead, it will work. It will only show me the top 5 rows. If I want to see 20, I can. You just need to specify how many you want, and you will see from 0 to 19 index. Okay, let's make it back to nothing, which will be 5. So this was approach 1 in selecting a column. What is approach 2? So let's give it 4 hashtags and say approach 2, selecting a column using brackets, press M and Shift Enter. So the name of your data frame again, so that's Titanic data. Then use square brackets, and this is my preferred way. I'll tell you why later, but this is my preferred way. And then use quotation marks and the name of the column. Very easy. Open bracket, quotation marks, the name of the column, quotation mark, and close the bracket. If I run that, it will give me exactly the same records. Well, I need to just make it head so that it will give me identical 5 top rows. So you can see that the results from here and here are exactly the same. But I told you that this is my preferred way. My way of choosing a column is by using open, close brackets, and quotation marks, the name of the column. The reason is, if you had a column that, for example, it was called count or print, these are the words that Python uses itself. So Python has a word that is print. It uses it as a function. There is a function in Python which is count. So if you have a column that has the same naming convention, there will be that misunderstanding, and Python will be like, well, I'm going to use my own understanding. I'm not going to use your column name. So that's why that confusion doesn't happen here. Great. So can I choose any other column? Well, yeah, if you want to use, for example, if you want to select the survived column, you can say, again, the name of your data frame, Titanic data, and what am I? I'm checking survived. Yep, this is the first way of doing it. Let me just move this up because this is from the previous category. That's from this category. And if I want to do it this way, I'm just going to say Titanic data, open brackets, open quotation, survived. And remember that Python cares about small and capital letters. Great. Now you might ask, what if I want to select multiple columns? I just don't want one column. Well, remember what columns you want. For example, I want age and survived. Was there a sex column? Yeah, there is a sex column. And I want the sex column. So this is the list of columns that I want. And I told you, if you want to select columns, that's not how you write Titanic data, open brackets. Okay, I tend to remember it this way. And copy the list that you want inside that open and close brackets. So essentially, you will need 2 open brackets and 2 close brackets and the list of columns that you want. Look at this. Ta-da! You got it. You got the age, you got the survived, and you got the sex. And if you remember, in the original data, Titanic data, it was in a different order. First was age, then was sex, then was survived. However, this time, because I have asked Python to first give me age, then survived, then sex, so be it. It has given me the order that I want. So essentially, you can change the order you're getting the data. So let me give this one a proper name. Selecting multiple columns, so that when you are looking at it, it's easy. So press ESC, then M, then Shift Enter. It will make a text. And let me get rid of this tab. Cool. So I told you, always check the type of the data you're dealing with. So if I go type and wrap it around this, so this is called wrapping it around, means put everything inside this function, which is type. Let's look at the type. The subset of the data that I chose, which is age, survive, sex, itself is a data frame. So I made a new data frame out of a bigger data frame. So do I want to save it under a different name? You can. You can call it Titanic data subset. And if you look at it, it has been now saved under this. And if I look at this, look at the head, you can see that I only have age, survived, and sex. Very easy. Can I look at the shape of it? Of course. Remember, shape doesn't need open and close bracket. It's just the way it is. So you've got 1,313 records, because that's what we had, but only 3 columns. Okay, I think that's it for selecting columns. I hope that you enjoy it, and I'm going to come back with multiple more videos on how to manipulate data in Pandas. Thank you, and goodbye.